Hello, Wanderers. Welcome back to our Crusader Kings 3 roleplay series following Ivar Scallendil, the Far Walker. And after that absolutely insane last episode, we're going to have a lot of things to go over in this one. But I just want to say, I think that last episode was one of the most interesting things to ever organically happen during one of our series thus far. Ivar was already rising up very quickly to the ranks of being my favorite character that we played so far. And after what happened in the last episode, that completely cements it. I mean, this guy rose up from nothing. He was a bastard, in those first few episodes where he was like wandering around the mountains and like his caravan was freezing to death and getting hypothermia and he had to fight off bandits and just all that kind of stuff, to going on this crazy journey where not only did he become the greatest traveler of his time, but he also came home fabulously wealthy. And then he loses his wife. He settles down. He's founding a salon. Everything seems to be going well. And then he's betrayed by the king and arrested and imprisoned, and he has to escape. I mean, you can't make this kind of stuff up. You could, but it's awesome, and I am super, super excited to see where this goes. Now, I have gone and done a little bit of stuff in between the episodes just to kind of set up a little bit of the scenario or the situation that we find ourselves in, just to kind of go along with what happened there. And so part of that is related to, so in between episodes I did have some time to really consider the situation. I mean, it caught me off guard, so obviously I was just kind of a little bit flabbergasted. But I think that it's probably safe to say that the reasoning behind King Ingulfur's decision to arrest Ivar and strip him of those lands was almost certainly because of Ivar's wealth and influence. But I think the wealth part plays an even bigger part because we know he went and raided the capital of Galicia, which is probably signaling to me that King Ingulfur was, a little bit hard up for money. And so, he's raiding the other kingdom there. He knows Ivar has a ton of money. Ivar is one of the richest men, perhaps the richest man in Iberia. And so King Ingulfur, for whatever reason, takes that opportunity to have him arrested and basically strips Ivar of everything that he owned and, taking that wealth for himself. It's completely plausible that such a thing would happen. Ivar was rich, but he had been gone for a long time, and he had lots of friends, but they were a lot of friends like abroad. He didn't have a ton of soldiers or anything like that, so he was actually a prime target for King Ingulfur to pull something like that and to just basically strip the man of his wealth and of his land, because Ingulfur is a king, and he's a Norse king, and Norse kings like money, and this is exactly something that would happen in the Norse sagas and things like that. So completely plausible, makes tons of sense. And considering that he now has, he's got 331 gold, he's obviously, a part of that was from what he stole from Ivar. Gold is pretty tempting, even to a man like King Ingulfur. He is brave, he's chaste, and he's calm. But there's nothing to say whether he's like a good or evil guy here. He's a fearless planner, so it says. So, we can't really make any moral judgment based on his traits. So the fact that he would do something like this isn't, doesn't conflict with his traits or anything like that. Now, part of how I imagine things going, there's a couple, I just want to enhance the story of what happened there now that I've had time to think of it. But we can probably imagine that Ivar was in Burgos when he was arrested, because we were the steward. So, we were having the wedding. We were going to have our wedding in Cuellar. but we were just preparing it. The wedding hadn't actually started yet, so we probably can presume we were still in Burgos at that time. And that's where we were arrested along with our wife, because it was before we got to our wedding. Now, we were arrested very easily because we were in Burgos, so, King Ingulfur wouldn't have really any trouble with that. But our family was still in Quayar. And this is kind of where I imagine, Vemender, and, but more importantly, our daughters here come in. So, when King Ingolfer would obviously have come to arrest Ivar's family, or to, maybe not necessarily arrest all of them, but he was coming to take the money, and he was also probably going to, at least put them under house arrest type of thing. So I imagine Ivar's daughters, the ones that were there, such as, Saga and Helen and Ear, not to mention the brothers here, Enoch and Lucidio, were, in Quayar, probably preparing for the wedding when word reached them that the king was coming. And so, I'm imagine some of Ivar's badass daughters here, essentially plotting their escape from Quayar before they could get arrested by the king. I have put Lucidio. He is in prison now, and so I imagine that during this this kind of escape, Lucidio was captured and imprisoned. We know that he had stayed behind, and so I kind of did this just to enhance the story a little bit, raise the stakes, so to speak. So not all of Ivar's children escaped. Lucidio unfortunately was captured while they were trying to escape. So we can see he's currently imprisoned. So our daughters helped our family escape, along with Enoch here, and then Vemender, comes in, and here's a cool thought, and I hadn't really considered this before. Vemender was a Varangian guard, which means he swore an oath to the emperor to serve him. So Vemender coming back, which we know he did, he was back in our court, so we know he came back. He would have had to break his oath to do that. So I thought that that was kind of a really interesting thing there, is to consider that Vemender, maybe he heard what happened, because Ivar was imprisoned for a little while. He heard what happened to his family, so he broke his oath to the emperor, and he came to rescue his family along with some of his Varangian friends. So I've actually gone and added a few of these Varangian warriors to our court. So Vemender, he had been with the Varangian Guard for 3 or 4 years, probably about 4 years at this point. So he would have had some friends and some allies in there, and so he deserted along with a few of his friends here. So we've got Valpielfer, and let's see who else here. Valpielfer, Eystein. So we remember this guy, the eunuch, the Cumbrian Asatru guy. Let's see, who else do we have? Steercar One Eye of House Borg. Yeah, this guy's pretty cool. And then finally, we've also got Alfir Goldenlocks. So these were some of Vemender's Varangian friends who came with them. And now you might be wondering, like, why would these Varangians desert the emperor? That was an oath. It's a crime. And you can see that I've given them all the gallows bait trait to reflect the fact that all of them broke their oath to the emperor in order to go along with Vemender. But why would they do such a thing? Well, actually, if we take a look at the emperor, he is not the type of guy that people would necessarily want to serve. Basileus the Foolish. I mean, he's a deceitful man. Look at some of his traits. He's a murderer. He's a sodomite. If we take a look, this was a while ago, but he had his own wife executed while she was pregnant for the supposed crime of adultery. Maybe they could have, if she did commit adultery, maybe they could say that this was justified, but she was pregnant, you know, and he is, thought to be a murderer and like all these things. So, and then look at his heirs. His heir is a drunkard. He's a decent man, but he's still a drunkard. And his son is a drunkard as well. So, like, there's a lot of decadence in the Byzantine Empire here, and this was totally fitting, right? But you can imagine that some of these Varangian warriors were disillusioned enough that they would come with Vemender to rescue Ivar Scalendil, the Far Walker, the richest man in all of the Norse lands. Some of these guys who came with Vemender probably, think that they're going to get handsomely rewarded for this, and hopefully we will. So yeah, Vemender came and he helped get our family out of there. But I do imagine that it was Ivar and his wife who teamed up together to escape from the cells. Maybe Vemender had a hand in it, and some of our other children there. I imagine they all kind of met up together, and they all tried to and they all worked together to help Ivar and Theodosia escape. So you guys can imagine this epic, this epic bit of story playing out. This is how I see it playing out. Now, we know that Christina was not here at the time because she had been married to Ivar Beridsson of the House of Ivering over here in Jorvik. We know that Jorvik is currently being the subject of a crusade, and I had some people mention in the Discord, how bad of a match we picked for Christina. This guy's a horrible man, callous, arrogant, and craven, not to mention melancholic. So basically just the worst person to possibly be married to, especially for somebody like Christina. But, this was the nephew of Ivar's best friend. Ivar would have known Jarl Barid. Jarl Barid was the most powerful of all the Norse in England. And so it makes sense that Ivar would think that this guy would be a good marriage for him because he wouldn't know, about all this guy's traits. But when Christina heard of what happened to her family, much like Vemender, Christina came back to help as well. And so we can see that she's in our court, and I didn't do that. She ended up in our court after all of that stuff happened. So she left her husband behind because her husband's still up here in Jorvik. And so Christina came back with us. Understandable. She doesn't like this guy. She doesn't probably want to be around him. So totally fitting that she would come and, join us after this and abandon her husband. So yeah, then Ivar came back and he ended up here in Rome. He fled to Rome because the Pope was, buttering us up in that previous episode, right? Paying us money, bringing us to the funeral, which makes total sense because Ivar is, the most prominent of the Norse converts to Christianity, and the Pope obviously saw Ivar as somebody who could potentially spread Christianity to the Norse here in northern Iberia, which makes total sense. So we find ourselves here in Rome, and well, who else was in Italy when all this was going on? Well, obviously, and we saw that this was happening because he was here at the funeral of the Pope, but none other than Ordonu the heir. And this is where things get very interesting because we know that Ordonu has an alliance with the Serene Doge of Venice that he had arranged, which was presumably in, plotting for him to retake his lands because he's got claims on Castali and Galicia. All of this used to be part of Asturias, and he is the rightful king of Asturias. And so we come back to Rome and we see Ordonu again. It's been a long time since we've, seen the man. And I think that some plotting went on, and we can actually see the Pope or the Serene Doge of Venice. We can imagine that the Pope and the Serene Doge, Ivar and Ordonu would be doing a little bit of plotting because Ordonu may wish to reclaim his lands. And now that Ivar has been betrayed by King Ingulfur, I think that Ivar might be looking to back Ordonu and to help his friend take his rightful throne. And I could never have imagined when I added Ordonu, Horseling, to our court when he was just a boy. He was 9 years old and he was in Ivar's court. I never would have imagined that the story could turn out like this. But the idea of Ivar getting exiled and then meeting up with Ordonu and helping him take his kingdom back, that is just too good. And so that's exactly what we are going to do. Now, we do need to do a little bit of preparations for that. Ivar, he lost almost all his money, and, his situation currently isn't necessarily the best. So we need to take a little bit of time. We need to build up some resources so that we can help Ordonu prepare, an invasion, because the Doge has some troops, yeah, but the Pope is otherwise occupied with the crusade for Jorvik, so the Pope can't help us that much. And the king of Castali, King Ingulfur here, is actually quite powerful, 3,000 troops. So we're going to actually need to have a reasonably strong force, or at least we're going to need to be able to bring some forces to bear if we want to be able to defeat King Ingulfur. I will point out that the Pope, as a kind of a gesture towards our family, and due to the fact that Enoch was previously the bishop of Cuellar, now that he's come here, the Pope has given Enoch a bishopric here in Rome. And so I've made Enoch the bishop here in Farfa. And I just thought that would be kind of cool. And he looks cool now. But also, this could actually give Enoch a chance to become the Pope eventually, because there is an elective system for the papacy, and it is possible that characters, like familiar characters that are within your family, can become the Pope. So he's essentially in the court. He has an opportunity. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I wanted to give him at least a chance, because that could be pretty cool if he did become the Pope. So I've also changed him to the Catholic religion as well. It's not so much different than the most Arabic faith that there really is not a notable. I mean, there's a notable difference, but Enoch and Ivar himself are basically Catholics. They see the Pope as still their head of faith. So, anyways, that was all long-winded, and obviously we had to do a lot of catching up after that situation. So, one last thing I did. So Ivar did marry Theodosia. I actually had to really go and mess around with things because I couldn't break the betrothal without causing a house feud, which actually did, unfortunately, it had to happen because we had arranged a grand wedding. I couldn't figure out any way of getting them married without breaking the betrothal first. So there's currently technically a house feud, but we'll ignore any house feud events and we'll end it at the first opportunity. But Ivar has married Theodosia here in Rome, and they've already got one kid here whom we've named Harold after our friend and the father of King Ingulfur. But yeah, that's that situation there. So what are we going to do first? Well, there's one thing that I want to do before I forget, and it is, I imagine that Christina abandoning her husband here, she hasn't had a kid yet, and let's face it, none of you guys were happy that she was married to Ivar Beridsson, And I don't think Christina was as well. And I know she's got her fans in the comments because, I mean, look at her. She's got amazing traits. You know, her diplomacy is super high. She's a shield maiden. She's beautiful. She's strong. You know, the only one of our kids to end up being like physically capable. And so no wonder she's got some fans. But I think that, you know, after all this, she would, you know, be telling us about the guy that we married her to. Ivar's probably a little bit miffed about that, about the, you know, how this guy turned out to be. And, you know, considering there's a crusade for Jorvik and this guy's the heir to Jorvik, well, as we can see, the Pope won't actually have much problem with us getting a divorce here for our daughter. So, yeah, for those of you who didn't like the idea of Christina marrying such a bastard, well, she will no longer be married to him there. So, there we go. And it is done. So, that's her former spouse. So, we'll find her a better spouse. You know, who knows? Maybe she'll actually end up falling for one of the Varangians that have come with Veminder here. And there's a couple, you know, interesting guys. Valpiofur here. He's I mean, he was previously a bandit before he became a Varangian. So, you know, he's not really that nice of a guy. But there is actually one guy who might be a good match for her, and that's Alfred Goldenlocks. He's a capable man, but brave, trusting, a little bit cynical, but you know, nothing wrong with that. So, you know, he's a decent man. Certainly a decent Norse man here. So yeah, who knows? But we'll keep things open there for a little while. So, the situation as it stands, well, we do need to essentially build up our camp a little bit. I did call in basically all of our favors and get as much money as we can so we could build up our pavilion to level 2. I do think we can get a contract from the Pope. I made him a patron. I just thought that seemed reasonable here. We could get a contract from him, and so I think that we can't do that. Oh, we need more prestige. Oh, we're missing a ton of prestige. So we need to, yeah, okay. So we need to get a little bit of prestige going because we took that big hit there. We do need to pick a terrain as well. I'm going to pick the Highlands. Yeah, let's see what's going on. So, I've set up our camp here. We've got Isaac the Kaiseris. He returned to us. He's now our personal physician. Christina is our caravan master. Veminder, of course, is our second in command. And I kind of imagine that Veminder is taking a pretty strong leading role here. We've got Adolfo as our quartermaster. This guy, Vacho, is our head porter. I'm not really sure where he came from. Can't remember. Zaid Garcia, he's still with us. He is one of our bodyguards, as is Eystein, the gelded, one of the Varangians. And then Yer is our laureate. But our camp has basically gone down to nothing because obviously we had to leave everything behind. We had this super built up camp, but yeah, no longer. So Ivar's basically starting from scratch here. So yeah, we probably need to do some jobs and make a little bit of money to prepare for assisting Ordonu here. We could hunt criminals. Oh, I also did give us, yeah, so you can see we've got these Varangian veterans. This is to represent the Varangians that came with Veminder, but I've left them at only 5 out of 100 because it's hard to imagine more than like a handful of Varangians deserting the Emperor at the same time, considering that you would be executed if you were caught. So basically it was just Veminder's friends and the ones who were most disillusioned with the Emperor. So there's only a handful of them. So yeah, that's it for now. Yeah, what do we do here? Hunt criminals? I don't really want to. I guess we could go into town. Let's mingle at the tavern. We could hear a story. Maybe we'll hear some interesting rumors. I don't think we can afford any. I don't think we can afford anything there. Can't afford to recruit anybody either. Can't get any contracts because I already asked for some. Could we sell an artifact? Oh man. Could we get some money? I would be willing to part with. Well, we're not going to sell the Saga of the Skald. The Maritime Trading Handbook could be okay to trade. It does have some bonuses, naval speed, stewardship, lifestyle experience, stuff like that, but we've got a better journal, the Saga of the Skald here, which I have gone and changed the description to something that one of you in the comments had left. But yeah, we need some money, so I will sell that Maritime Trading Handbook. Can we get supplies? We can only attempt to steal supplies because we don't have enough money, and I've already tried to get provisions for free. Oh, we could. No, I don't think we can afford to steal right now. If that makes any sense. All right, let's head back to camp. Do we want to hunt the criminal? I don't really think so. I think we should probably seek out some better contracts. Maybe we go to Venice. The Venetians are kind of in on the plot. So yeah, I think we could probably go to Venice. We're pretty low on supplies here. Oh no, we should be okay. Yeah, let's head to Venice. Doesn't look like there's anything else we need to stop at on the way. So yeah, let's go there. Let's see if we can get ourselves some jobs. What? Rounding a little cluster of tents as I leave my pavilion, I come across a gaggle of followers having dinner around a small hearth. Curiously, both Saga and Theodosia are among them, neither of whom particularly enjoy one another's company. Before I have much time to ponder such a strange quirk of seating, Theodosia mutters something unaudible, only for the whisper to send Saga into a blind rage. With a flash, a weapon is drawn and blood is about to be spilled. No, obviously we're going to intervene. And we put a halt to it. Our daughter here is apparently mad. Maybe she blames Theodosia for what happened to the family. That's actually a... My son, Mayor Lucidio's died. Oh boy. All right. Yeah. So Mayor Lucidio was executed on King Ingulfur's orders. This is an an unforgivable crime. I mean, it's not like I didn't expect this to happen when we had when Lucidio was arrested. But yeah, that is, oh man. So because Ivar escaped and, for the crimes of the family, he had our son executed, and he still probably has, oh yeah, our kids. Yeah, so Lucidio's kids and his wife, I believe, his wife, they're still within the hands of King Ingulfur. So not all of our family made it out, and our dear son Lucidio. Some people were kind of, knocking Lucidio, saying we should have skipped him over being the town mayor for Christina. But, Lucidio, he wasn't a bad man. I mean, his traits were, just completely, pretty average. He was just an average guy. He was zealous, so like he was a good Mos Arabic man. He was forgiving, so we know that he had like a relatively, decent nature to him. Sure, he was lazy, but he wasn't a bad guy by any means. He maybe just needed a little bit of responsibility to teach him to buck up. And, I imagine that he, stayed behind maybe to protect his family or to try to defend his family, to maybe offer a distraction so the rest of his family could escape, but for whatever reason, he was caught. and executed for for all that. And so, you know, I don't think anybody can knock Lucidio. I think that in the end, he would have proven to be loyal to his family, and I think that he suffered for that. And so, yeah, that is sad. And now, and you know what? Even Ivar, who's not a vengeful man, is going to be out for revenge. And Vemender, who just lost his brother and is a vengeful man. He might be callous, but I still see Vemender as somebody who still it has feels some importance towards family. And maybe it's not like a super compassionate love for his family, but I still think all of Ivar's children think that family is important. And so him losing his brother is just going to drive his vengeance even more. So yeah, that is pretty cool. Here we go. We are going to end this feud because it doesn't make sense. Like I said, this was just kind of a messed up thing from the thing. I guess we get a tiny bonus from this, but whatever, it's fine. So there might be just a little bit of a stutter there because actually my whole computer crashed, which has happened a couple times while I've been playing Crusader Kings 3 recently. I don't know if that is just a me thing or not, but it's a little bit annoying. But luckily, my recording programs make autosaves while I'm recording, so I don't have to redo everything. But in any case, here we are in Venice. And yeah, with our son Lucidio dead and executed by King Ingulfur here, we need to expedite our plans. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. One thing that I want to consider, we're currently on camp purpose, just wanderers. We could become explorers again, but what I'm actually tempted to do is become swords for hire. And that's mostly because, Vemender's wife died. Did it not give us a pop-up for this? Or did I just not see it? Because I know I'm oblivious. This must have that must have happened while we were traveling there. So Gamza died in childbirth. Huh. And she did have a kid, Ingulfur. No, you can't name him Ingulfur. Wait, does Ingulfur have red hair? He does. There's no way she would do that, though. There's no way. I can't believe that. Maybe though. I mean, Ivar. I believe that Ivar is definitely the son of Vemender. But why would she want to name him Ingulfur? I don't even like. It's just silly. That's obviously just a thing with the game, but. I know that there's gonna be theories. This is probably Vemender's kid, but I know there's gonna be theories relating around that. But we're obviously not naming the kid Ingulfur. It's got to be Lucidio, right? Vemender would name the kid after his brother, who was just lost. So yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So Lucidio Vemenderson. This is certainly Vemender's kid. It's just a coincidence, but that's the name that it picked for him. But yeah, totally ridiculous. Anyways. So yeah, in any case, we've got some contracts. I do see there's 2 nice looking artifact delivery contracts, including this one by the Pope, which is really good looking. But like I said, I was considering doing a camp purpose, and I was thinking that we could do swords for hire. Because like I said, Vemender is probably taking a slightly more important role than he was before. And with all these Varangians here, and the idea that we're going off to war, it seems that to make sense that our camp purpose isn't going to be wandering, isn't going to be exploring. It's going to be, obviously Legitimus would make the most sense, but we can't pick that. But, we are going to war. So Ivar here. He's got his sword and shield. Looks a little bit, that's not necessarily the Ivar we know. but, you know, I think it makes sense that our camp purpose would be a little bit more inclined towards war, just because of the influence that Vemender would have on it. So yeah, that's what we're gonna go with there, which should mean, yeah, we can get another men-at-arms as well, which we might do once we get some money. I would like to probably get some provisions while we're here, so I think we'll do some foraging. I think we'll do this one. Oh no, we become ill. Of course, there's like a 1% chance of that. Ugh, oh well. Let's I guess we'll continue on here. Where does this person want us to take this contract? Not too far, luckily. I think we'll just take the contract, or take the artifact there, because we're gonna go and do this one for the Pope shortly after this anyways, so I think we're gonna be fine with just a little regular thing here. Ditch, shouts Adolfo, despite the fact that we are... Oh, okay, we are on land. I thought we were still in the sea. Adolfo had his turn on lookout, but he fell asleep at the reins. By gods, we're going to be late. I'll ride rough from now on. Yeah, I guess we have to delay for a few days here, unfortunately. But we'll drop off the artifact, and then we'll take the job for the Pope once we get back to Venice there. So there we go. Decent chunk of change here as well. What we're probably going to do, could we ask this guy for some troops? We could ask him for a men-at-arms regiment. What kind of special regiments do these guys get? Acrite, Balustre? Interesting. Oh, I'd love to get some, like, onagers or something. I think we will ask this... Oh, no, we can't. He's too far away. Oh, that sucks. It's not that far away. All right, so we're back in Venice here. Yeah, we can't ask him for a thing. Oh man, that's a little bit annoying. He would accept though, right? He will accept. It's gonna cost us some prestige. We should be able to we'll get some troops from the Pope, I think. Where does the Pope want us to take this contract? And he's gonna pay us a good amount. He wants us to take it to King Gottschalk over in Corsica. All right, we can do that. I think we'll take the entire camp here. We got enough provisions, so it should be all right. There's a tiny bit of danger as we cross the mountains. Or no, just bandit danger. Can we avoid that? Customize the route. Let's head here. And then maybe we want to land in Vecchio. No, okay, let's go from there. Let's go down to here. Yeah, there we go. That seems to be a safer route. Costs us a little more provisions, but we should still be okay. So yeah, we'll go and do this job for the Pope. Oh no, Vemender's wounded as well. He should be okay. Severely injured. I wonder what happened to him. Curious. Not really sure why he got severely injured. Hopefully he'll be all right. Aggravated wound, not good, but successful wound treatment. So that's good at least. Cutting rations. Stop fretting, it'll be fine. Father, begins Helen. I couldn't help but notice we're about halfway through our rations. Shouldn't we start reducing our rations, or even better, plan for a stock up? Just buy yourself a tasty treat at the next town. I mean, she is our dear youngest daughter. Well, we can give her a tiny little bit of money here. The procession is ground to a halt a stone's throw away from Impruneta. I see my follower Damian. This is the wife of Steercar One Eye. She says, well, apparently there's an ant path, but you should never cross it. But we're busy. Apparently not too busy, because Ivar got himself lost. He was feeling a little too confident. Navigating the wilds. We do have another wandering perk. Travel logs. Let's see. I mean, probably going with... Let's go with navigating the wild. That gives us some nice advantages there. All right, critically low provisions. No, we should be all right. We'll buy provisions once we get to Ajaccio here. Ajaccio? Ajaccio. I don't know how to pronounce these things. You guys know how it is. Oh god, there's an army sieging it down too? No wonder he wanted this spear. He needs to defend himself from the army that's sieging down his lands. Prince Baldwin of Italy and the claim on there. All right, well, clearly the Pope wants you to win. So there we go. I don't think anybody here is going to have any provisions for us, so maybe we should just like hop over to nah, I guess we'll sail back to Rome. We'll get our provisions there, right? We move camp here. Let's see how many provisions. We're getting real low. We're getting mighty, mighty low here on provisions, but I think we'll have just enough to make it back to Rome. Yeah, this is back. This is like the olden days when Ivar was barely making it through. You know, he's sick. They're running low on provisions. You know, things are desperate. This is like how it used to be. They say children react more than anyone else to the places they find themselves. It's fortunate for my daughter Helen that she finds herself in the company of the most hardy knights, vicious sellswords, and dogged soldiers I've been able to gather. A fine environment for a young girl to grow up in. Really? Maybe. She'll be a warrior one day? Oh. I don't think we want all of them. Perhaps she'll consider another path. Yeah, let's see. She can be diplomacy, right? She's a learning-focused character. There we go. But yeah, she got, we instill a little bit of wisdom in her, so that's nice at least. Well, there we go. Back to Rome. All right, we've got money now, thankfully. We can probably go to Rome and buy some provisions. Let's get some supplies. I think we'll just buy. We should just load up. Or do we really need to? That's a lot of money. That's actually half of our money. I don't think we can afford it. Let's try to charm this guy. All right, we successfully charm him. That should give us enough provisions for now. See if there's any other jobs. Martial work, scholarly work. Let's take some learning contracts. See what's at the castle. Maybe we could get some scruffy Italian soldiers. Ride with me. Join the prominent Captain Ivar. Ooh, maybe we could do some bartering. We could get some people to join. So yeah, sure, let's do that. Look for some able bodies at the garrison. We can't really afford any of these guys. This is the local training grounds. We could spar with Eystein here, but Ivar's feeling sick. No, I don't think so. Let's head back. All right, so we did bring some troops in though. So now we got another like 60 troops. They're part of the Varangian veterans here, but I imagine like it's mostly just these Italian, it's Italian soldiers, but they're serving under serving under Veminder and his, Varangians here. So they're going to be fighting in the Varangian style. So that's how we can explain that. We could get a request from the Pope at this point. The only things that he would do is give us provisions or the men-at-arms regiment. So we should probably do the men-at-arms regiment at this point and see what he gives us. Armored footmen. Hey, that's not so bad. So yeah, oh, look at that. Yeah, so he gave us 100 armored footmen. So that's actually pretty decent. Oh, and look at that. They've turned around their crusade against Jorvik here. Not too shabby. All right. Then we've got some contracts around. Stand with us. Work of learning. I mean, we've got some money. Can we afford mercenaries? We could afford it. We could definitely afford some mercenaries. You know what? This might be enough. We've got some troops. Ivar has some troops here. We could hire some mercenaries, the French Drakes, the True Sons. Well, the True Sons are going to be joined with us. But yeah, we could hire some mercenaries. There's disease going through his land. I don't know, guys. I think that this might be. Oh, and he's facing a rebellion as well. Leader Severiku and the populist uprising. This might be the time, actually, to do it. So you know what? I think that we're gonna. I think that we might go to our friend. I mean, Ivar's a little sick. I think we might just do the last little bits of, kind of preparation. We'll wait till Ivar's feeling healthy. We'll wait until, Vemender has recovered from his wounds. But other than that, I think that we don't have too much preparations left. And so that is exactly what we're going to do as we prepare to launch our revenge and to stop King Ingulfur in his tracks, to take back our lands and to put our friend, the true heir of Asturias, back on the throne. But that's going to be in the next episode, Wanderers. So until then, thank you so much for watching.